Hello, boys and girls. This is Miss K. Today I'm going to read aloud a book to you titled The Principal's New Clothes, written by Stephanie Commonson. Let's look at the front cover of this book. Who do you see? What is the setting? What do you think this book will be about? Mr. Bundy is the principal of PS 88. He is also the sharpest dresser in town. His students never missed a day of school. They like to see what he is wearing. "Looking good, Mr. B," they always say. Mr. Bundy has so many clothes. He can go a whole month and not wear the same suit twice. Sometimes he changes at lunchtime just to show off. Why did the students of PS 88 never miss a day of school? One day a man and a woman who said they were tailors called on Mr. Bundy. Their card said, "Moe and Ivy, we make suits that suit you fine." But they were not really tailors. They were tricksters. "Greetings, Mr. B," said Ivy. "How would you like to buy an amazing one-of-a-kind suit?" "I have so many suits already," said Mr. Bundy. "Ah, but this is no ordinary suit," said Moe. "It has special powers." "What do you mean?" asked Mr. Bundy. Moe looked to his left. He looked to his right. Then he whispered in Mr. Bundy's ear, "We make our clothes from special cloth. It is invisible to anyone who is no good at his job or just plain stupid." "Really?" said Mr. Bundy. "Who did Moe say could not see the special suit?" "Yes," said Ivy. "Not only will you look great, but you can find out if anyone in your school is no good at his job or stupid." "That is amazing!" cried Mr. Bundy. "Now if you'll take off your jacket and lift up your arms, sir," said Ivy, grinning, "we will take your measurements. We will also take your money," mumbled Moe. The next day Moe and Ivy set up a workshop in the gym. It was not long before the whole school heard about the amazing cloth and wanted to see it. Students asked to be excused to get a drink of water. Then they ran to the gym to peek. Teachers said they were going next door to borrow chalk. Then they ran to the gym too, but no one could see a thing. Where did Moe and Ivy, the tricksters, set up their workshop? By the end of the week Mr. Bundy began to wonder what his new clothes looked like. But he was also a little worried. What if he could not see the cloth? So he sent his vice principal, Miss Moore, to have a look. Miss Moore was smart and good at her job. She would have no trouble seeing the special cloth. Miss Moore hurried to the gym. She knocked on the door. "Mr. Bundy sent me to see his new clothes," she called over the noise of the whirring machines. A moment later the door opened a crack and Miss Moore slipped inside. Why did Mr. Bundy send his vice principal to check on his new clothes? "What do you think?" asked Moe. "Have you ever seen anything like it? Poor Miss Moore! She could not see a thing. Can it be that I'm stupid or unfit for my job?" she wondered. "I've tried so hard to be a good vice principal." She took off her glasses, wiped them, and looked again. But it was no use. Miss Moore had to think fast. If she told the truth, she might get fired. It's beautiful," she said. "I'm going to tell Mr. Bundy right now how much I like his new clothes." "Your suit is great," Miss Moore told Mr. Bundy. "I've never seen anything like it. And now I've got to run and make a phone call. Bye." She hurried off before Mr. Bundy could ask any questions. Now Mr. Bundy was more curious than ever. Why did Miss Moore tell Mr. Bundy his suit was great when actually she couldn't see a thing? He stopped Roger in the hall. Roger was one of the smartest students in the school. If he couldn't see the suit, nobody could. "Say, Roger," said Mr. Bundy, "do me a favor and find out how my new suit is coming along." Roger couldn't believe his ears. "Wow!" he said. "I'll be the first one to see the principal's new clothes. Wait till the class hears about this." And he raced off to the gym. The door was still open, so Roger peeked inside. He could see Moe and Ivy at their sewing machines, hard at work, but he could not see the cloth. "Oh no," Roger thought. "If Mrs. Feeney finds out I can't see this cloth, she'll say I'm stupid. She'll fail me for sure." On the way back to his class, Roger poked his head into Mr. Bundy's office. "Super suit," he said. "What does it look like?" asked Mr. Bundy. "I can't stop now, Mr. B. Mrs. Feeney is giving a test, and I wouldn't want to miss it." Mr. Bundy couldn't stand it any longer. "I'll have to go see for myself." He marched down the hall and walked into the gym. Mr. Bundy looked at the empty machines. He blinked once. He blinked twice. He began to tremble. "How can this be?" he wondered. "Am I really no good at my job? Is there anything wrong? Asked Ivy. Oh, no, said Mr. Bundy. The suit it's fantastic. I can hardly wait to try it on. Mr. Bundy handed Mo and Ivy 2 gold stars to show how much he liked his new suit. I'd like to wear the suit to the assembly tomorrow, he said, but I guess it won't be ready. He turned to go. Yes, it will, said Mo. We will work on it all night and bring it to your house in the morning. That night, Mr. Bundy dreamed cold and drafty dreams. Early the next morning Mo and Ivy appeared holding their empty hangers in the air. Ivy waited in the other room while Mo helped Mr. Bundy put on his new clothes. You must be careful stepping into the pants, he said. This cloth is very delicate. Why did Mo and Ivy bring over empty hangers? Ivy tried not to look at Mr. Bundy. Aren't your new clothes light? She asked. It's almost like having nothing on at all, isn't it? Mr. Bundy stared at himself in the mirror. He prayed that the rest of the world was smarter and fitter than he. Are you coming to the assembly? Asked Mr. Bundy. Thanks, but no thanks, said Ivy. We have a bus to catch, and now, if you could pay us, we'll just run along. Mo handed Mr. Bundy the bill. Mr. Bundy handed Mo a great deal of money. On the way to school, Mr. Bundy's neighbors all raved about the clothes they did not see. After all, they did not want their friends to find out that they were stupid or no good at their jobs. Mr. Bundy walked into the auditorium. As he walked down the aisle, he could hear whispers all around him. Mr. Bundy thought he must be the only stupid person in town. Do you think anyone will tell Mr. Bundy the truth? Suddenly a kindergarten child called out, "The principal's in his underwear!" That did it! Everyone burst out laughing. The truth had been told. Mr. Bundy and the teachers and students knew they had been tricked. No one had been willing to tell the truth because they were worried about what others would think of them. Mr. Bundy stood on stage, red in the face, knees shaking from the chill, but not for long. The kids and teachers wanted to help Mr. Bundy. They began passing up shirts and sweatpants, jackets and ties and caps. Soon Mr. Bundy had a new suit. "Looking good, Mr. B," called Roger from the back row. Mr. Bundy called the kindergarten child up onto the stage. He shook her hands and gave her a gold star. "Thank you for telling the truth, Alice," he said. Everyone cheered. They knew Mr. Bundy was smart and good at his job, and they all agreed Mr. Bundy was still the sharpest dresser in town. No one wanted to tell Mr. Bundy the truth because they did not want anyone to think they were stupid or no good at their jobs. The only person that told Mr. Bundy the truth was the kindergarten student. What does that say about her? What kind of person is she? When you come up with an answer, go tell a family member. I hope you enjoyed today's read aloud.